All right, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the inaugural Northwestern Alumni VentureCat competition. My name is Mike Rabb, and I'm the executive director of the Garage at Northwestern, where we support, thank you, student and alumni innovators with resources, connections, and programming like tonight's event to help them bring their ideas to life and build the future. Alumni VentureCat is a brand new program and event building upon the success of the Student VentureCat competition that takes place each spring on Northwestern's campus, where we award more than $175,000 in non-dilutive prize money to the most promising and high-potential student entrepreneurs. We're excited to extend Northwestern's support to alumni innovators even after they've left campus. And tonight, we'll be awarding $100,000 to the grand prize winner, which is one of these 5 finalists you see over to my left. Good luck. We launched the applications for this Alumni VentureCat competition in February, and it was eligible to all Northwestern alumni who have started a business in the past 5 years and have raised less than $2.5 million. We were very pleased to receive 75 applications from alumni founders across the country, representing 11 different schools at Northwestern and over 40 years of graduates. I'd like to thank the Kellogg Entrepreneurship and Innovation Club for their help in reviewing and diligencing each of the applications and helping us select our finalists who are presenting here tonight. I'd also like to thank our NULC members for their philanthropic support, the Alumni Relations and Development team for their continued support of the Garage and VentureCat, and particularly tonight's event, Associate Vice President of Innovation and New Ventures, Lisa Dar, and the Garage team who's worked tirelessly to put on this program, including Sarah Stein, Elisa Mitchell, Kiara Locke, Jake Jaraka, and Carly Kramer. Thank you all so much. Also like to recognize our esteemed judges here tonight, who are all accomplished Northwestern alumni investors themselves, including Dinesh Morjani, Kristen McDonald, and John Cowgill. Thank you all for joining us. Before we get to the pitches, I'd like to invite up Dr. Eric Perot, who is the Vice President for Research at Northwestern. Eric oversees an infrastructure of over $1 billion in annual sponsored research funding, and he was appointed the Vice President last September and has been a tremendous supporter of the Garage and VentureCat, so we're so grateful to have him with us here tonight. Please welcome Eric.
Thanks, Mike, for that nice introduction, and welcome to all of you. It's really a pleasure to be here in San Francisco to launch our inaugural VentureCat alumni. So, as Mike mentioned, Northwestern is a research powerhouse, so we crossed about $1 billion in federal funding last year. And what I'm really excited about is that fundamental research that we do really spurs a lot of the innovation and translation on campus. And the VentureCat program is one wonderful example of that. So since it was launched 10 years ago, VentureCat companies launched by our students have continued to raise over $1 billion. Last year, companies that are coming out of Northwestern raised over $300 million in 1 year, and this trend is continuing. And so a lot of this comes from our fundamental research supported by office, but it's really supported by programs from the Innovation and Inventions office that Lisa runs, and so I want to give a special shout out to Lisa Dar and for all of her work. So I don't want to take up too much of time because we've got a really exciting program today. Congratulations again to all of our finalists. We are excited to have you here and to learn more about your ventures. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All right, so it's time for the main event. So each of our 5 finalist founders will pitch for 5 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A from our judges. After the final pitch, we invite you all to join us in the reception area for food, beverage, and conversations as the judges deliberate who will take home the grand prize of Alumni VentureCat and $100,000. And with that, I'm going to pass it to our first finalist, Sophia Wenstadt from Blip Energy.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you all. I'm excited to be here. My name's Sophia Wenstadt. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blip Energy, where we're building solutions for smarter energy management. because unfortunately, our electric grid cannot keep up with our needs. This is a $1 trillion problem. It's facing all sorts of bottlenecks around permitting and construction. What this means for all of us is that the cost of energy is going up and the power is going out more frequently. And that's really hard on all users of energy. But on the other side of the coin, grid operators have a really hard job. They have to ensure at every moment that the amount of energy we're using is matched by the amount of power that's being generated. And when this falls out of balance, the grid melts down, like what we saw in Texas a couple of winters ago. Luckily, decreasing energy demand, even temporarily, is just as powerful as increasing generation by building a new power plant. So we need to find new ways to decrease demand. Where do we start? The reality is there's tons of energy capacity that could be used to reduce demand, but it needs a different solution than traditional installed solar plus storage systems. So we needed to design a system that fits their specific set of constraints. Our approach is to maximize impact with the lowest barriers to implementation. That means a behind-the-meter solution, something that plugs into the wall, that doesn't require permitting, construction, electricians, or utility interconnection. This approach can apply across verticals, but we're starting with window air conditioners, like the ones you see here. They're a huge source of stress on the grid, and they're a massive market for us to open with. So what we've designed is a drop-in smart battery. It plugs straight into a standard wall outlet and connects to local Wi-Fi. Users plug their air conditioner directly into this unit. They see hundreds of dollars a year of bill savings on their electric bill. They also have backup power in case the power goes out. And we aggregate these batteries into that lucrative, robust demand market. This is a self-contained system that sets up in minutes. And there's already a lot of players in this demand market that you might not even know exists. Nest Thermostat makes the bulk of its revenue participating in demand management. They've done a great job, but 30% of US households don't have central air or thermostats, and that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of commercial and other properties. So we've designed our solution to add value where players like Nest can't participate. And an entire ecosystem has developed to take advantage of these pockets of demand. These demand aggregators build a portfolio of solutions like Nest, like Blip, dynamic EV charging, and they bid that directly into grid operators, which makes this demand reduction a viable and powerful tool for them. Tactically, Voltus is paid by the New York system operator. This is a case study just for New York, but this applies across the country. So Voltus is paid by NYSO. They take a commission and pay out Blip, and then we share a portion of that revenue with the asset owner. And to start, that asset owner is the property owner of residential and commercial properties that are leveraging these window air conditioners. For them, they love the passive revenue stream. It's a free tenant amenity. The tenant gets all the bill savings and backup power, and they can make a quick upgrade without doing a complete gut reno and HVAC retrofit. This is a great way for us to establish an efficient market foothold as we work towards our scale partner, which is really working with utilities and other energy regulators. They need these demand solutions like what Blip provides. They want to help us scale, and we lower their cost of operation by preventing the turn on of additional power plants. So they're very excited about what we're building. And we know that because they're funding us. We've gotten $1.1 million grant from the Department of Energy to support this drop-in energy research approach. We've got Southern Company, which is the largest utility conglomerate, on our cap table as a strategic. And we're building a new category of thing. So we wanted to make sure we had stakeholder support across the ecosystem to make sure we could scale. We've worked closely with UL to ensure that we're certified as a portable power station, and we're beginning our market partnerships. We have integration with Leap and Voltus as those demand aggregators. And I actually set up a pilot with Minnesota Power, a utility, this week. We've got ones with Lacey and Brooklyn Navy Yard upcoming this summer. And our team was really uniquely able to design this solution. My background is in hardware and product. I was a mechanical engineer and built Roomba. My co-founder, Chance, has a background working at utilities across North America. So what we need to do now is get units in the field. What's important to note as well is that once units are out there, we have a recurring revenue stream from grid services that quickly overtakes the revenue from hardware sales. And we're very excited about the opportunity to win $100,000 tonight. As I mentioned, we're focused on demonstration projects to unlock our pipeline of LOIs and turn those into purchase orders. With $100K, we can support 2 demonstration projects to move into the PO territory with some of those LOIs, as well as funding a business development associate to do some of the top of funnel work to make sure that our founder-led sales is focused on the most important parts of that conversation. So I invite you to join us in building a better, smarter grid for all of us. And I think what's important to remember is we're building a platform of hardware and software that can apply across verticals. We're starting with window ACs, but there's a big opportunity here for this drop-in energy resource. Thanks.
All right, testing, right. Great pitch. Thanks for walking us through it. I'd love to just make sure I fully grok. So you're initially going to market selling to property managers, and you get paid basically a one-time hardware revenue fee from them, and then the recurring revenue comes post-install through basically grid operators, or okay, perfect. So how far along are you with selling to property managers, and how's that going? That can be a gnarly go-to-market.
Yeah, it's going well. I think what we're primarily getting and why we're focused on demonstration projects is, they love a passive revenue stream, and they're also getting a lot of pressure to upgrade these older buildings that are really tough to retrofit. So they see a pretty frictionless passive revenue stream. It doesn't require a lot of installation. The only pushback we're getting is, I want to see more proof in the field. So that's why we're focused on demonstration projects. But it's an under 2-year payback for them, and it fits into the business activities. They already buy appliances to outfit all of their units, so it's something they're familiar with. The other thing we've heard is, if this is an attractive tenant amenity and it gets this unit rented or sold 1 month sooner, it's already paid for itself. So they're excited to see what some of the feedback is from these demonstration projects we're doing.
Super helpful. One follow-up question.
Yeah.
How have you thought about how much you want to lean into trying to get them to pay one-time upfront CapEx versus if the payback's there, you could potentially eat the cost and then
Absolutely.
I'm just curious how you thought about that.
Something we've thought about, modeled out. We would love to switch to a hardware as a service model. I will say we modeled that out right now. We're in a little bit of lean startup mode, so it's a networking capital problem more than it's a strategy problem. I would love to do hardware as a service and offer either some kind of subscription fee or wrap it into our cost of customer acquisition.
Can you walk through kind of the economics of a single building, or how are you thinking about it in terms of cost of acquisition of the building, and then what is it costing to deploy, and then the revenue?
Absolutely. Let me head back to this. So our cost of customer acquisition is about $150 a unit. So if I would say the larger buildings tend to be a bit more mature. They want to see a little bit more proof before they're going to take a risk with this. So right now we're working more with small to mid-sized buildings rather than the gray stars of the world who need a little bit more proof before they're going to dip their toe in. So we are selling them the hardware for an $800 one-time sale. And then we start booking that recurring revenue 1 year in. So a year after we've placed the units, we're able to start booking that revenue. And then we're sharing, again, 20% of that revenue back to the property owner.
You're manufacturing the hardware yourself?
We are, yeah.
And is there a certain volume at which you need to achieve to
actually hit these numbers? Yeah, so these are scale numbers. Right now, our hardware is about $1,200. $800 is our scale target. We're leveraging actually white labeling right now. So we're using a known battery manufacturer and white labeling some of their technology with some tweaks to fit the set of requirements that we need. Yeah.
Sophia, nice job.
Thank
Very
you.
well done. A bunch of questions, but
Sure.
I'll try to distill it down to a couple of things. One is, given the payback period of about 2 years for either the property manager or a residential household, depending on your
Sure.
go-to-market, can you keep that negative working capital paid up front, but just put a guarantee against the payment, so they're only taking credit risk in your company, but you're still getting the recurring revenue sort of in perpetuity?
Yes.
Yes.
In short, yes. Yeah. These are all things that we've thought about as we move sort of out of this early lean pilot phase and into scale distribution. That's something that works really well actually once we start to work more closely with utilities. So utilities are, again, very interested in this. They're invested in us. They're asking for a lot of pilots. But we know that they tend to be a little slower than other commercial adopters. So once we're working with utilities, they can offer actually really attractive financing potentially and other guarantees against the electric bill.
Okay, that's helpful. Can you pop back to the unit economics slide? I
Sure.
want to dive into that deeper. Can you walk through your gross margin profile for the hardware versus the services revenue? I think you flipped through it a little quick, so I didn't get a chance to really
Sure.
examine the slide.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
And then if you, to the extent you have an estimate of your CAC, maybe talk a little bit about contribution margin as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are looking at here is our, again, scale cost. So at scale, it costs us about $400 to build the unit, and we'll be able to sell for $800. Our customer lifetime value, we assume about a 10-year customer life. That's based on the life of the electronics product. I will say I'm a big right to repair girl. So we've designed this product to be modular so that we could swap in a battery at the end of life. We can do other maintenance to keep that unit in the field beyond 10 years. But we expect it's about 3,000 cycles to end of life on the battery, which is about a 10-year life of the product. When we are looking at our gross profit margin, so this is as we move through scaling. At first, this is with our $1,200 sale. I should update this slide so that the axes are a little bit more realistic to actually read. But we are also looking at the lag where we're starting to get this recurring revenue 1 year in. So in the third year, we're getting the contribution of the recurring revenue, which is about $1,200 per unit per year, on the previous 2 years of deployed units.
Got it. Just a couple follow-ups. On
Yeah.
the supply side, for the payers from the I think it's the grid entities.
Yeah.
Does their timeline for your commercial contracts align with the ongoing recurring revenue that goes to the customer so that you don't fall short on the supply side to then cover the commitments on the demand side?
Yes. So they will take, at this point, basically as much demand as can be supplied. The dynamic is basically that it's a 100-degree day. Everyone is turning their air conditioners on. What the utility has to do on their side is turn on an entire additional power plant to support that marginal 1 megawatt of demand. So
Right.
what they really don't want to do is turn on additional fuel-burning power plants. One, because they're expensive. They're the most expensive generation in the stack, but they're also polluting in traditionally underinvested neighborhoods, contributing GHGs. So there's a lot of reasons why they don't want to have to turn those on. And we're contributing to resource adequacy of the existing transmission lines. So as we start to look to fleet electrification, we can do really granular demand management that allows AI data centers to go online, allows fleet electrification to happen without massive infrastructure upgrades to all of the transmission that they need.
Got it. That's super helpful. Last question.
Yeah, sure.
The industrial design of what you showed looked
Sure.
aesthetically really beautiful, but at the end of the day, one might argue it's a commodity
Sure.
with the batteries,
Oh, I'm
even
going backwards,
though your
forwards.
software might elegantly manage it. What's to stop property managers and homeowners simply to put in other battery systems or a Tesla battery coming in from large renewable players that are getting subsidies on the back end at a state and federal level
Yeah.
that covers not just air conditioning, but every source of demand in the house?
Yeah. So this is, I think, thank you for asking that, because I think this is the crux of our differentiation is that I worked at Tesla as a product manager. I saw a lot of great technology that isn't being adopted for a couple of reasons. Number one, cost. But the others are those installation constraints. First of all, in some AHJs, authority having jurisdictions, they're actually prevented. So New York, for example, you can't install a Tesla Powerwall. The other is that if you're a property owner, it's a pretty onerous ask to install that solar plus storage system. We don't have good technology to actually break that between the multiple meters of a multi-unit building. So that technology is lacking as well. And then the last one that I would say is that there's the reality of modern life, which is that people don't know how long they're going to be in a place, whether that's commercial or residential. So we've gotten some interest in other verticals actually from on the commercial space to run the refrigerators in a large C-store conglomerate that remains nameless. And then we've also gotten interest from a manufacturer that wants to use this approach on injection molding machines and CNC machines on their shop floor. So really the answer is that those installed systems come with all of the barriers around permitting, construction, utility interconnection, and those barriers are high enough that even players that could theoretically install a system like that aren't.
That's super helpful, and households could take it with them if they moved. So
Exactly.
that's great. Thank you for the really thoughtful answers.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Shruti Bharat, and I'm the founder of Campground, a one-stop shop for program managers. So I'm the former CEO at Allraise, an organization focused on gender equity in the VC ecosystem. I oversaw programs offered to more than 20,000 women. And the types of programs we offered included networking events, leadership programs, cohort-based programs, pitch training programs. So I loved the impact. But actually running these programs was a huge headache. And that's because we had to use 7 to 12 tools just to do very simple workflows, like running program applications, sending emails, organizing an event. They sound simple, but every single task lived in a different tool. None of those tools talked to each other, and so our data was all over the place. We had no source of truth. And the impact of that was actually very expensive. We spent $1 million in 3 years hiring technical talent, adding on software subscriptions, hiring consultants to maintain a custom infrastructure. And we still spent hundreds of hours on data cleanup. And ultimately, we just couldn't tell simple stories like who were the participants that participated the most in the last 3 years. It was so hard to collect that metric, which is how an organization like Allraise fundraises. So is this just an Allraise problem? The answer is no. Every organization delivering programs has this problem, and I know because I was searching for a solution as a buyer. And this is great because it's a huge market. Program managers don't just live in one industry, like nonprofits, like Allraise, but also government fellowship programs, workforce programs, accelerator programs, company learning programs. And they're all saying the same thing. Existing CRM solutions like Salesforce or HubSpot, which should wrap a bunch of workflows together, they're built for sales, not program managers. So it requires customization and add-ons. They're also dealing with non-technical staff who are not able to focus on the highest impact tasks. And finally, in order to scale, they're forced to build their own infrastructure versus buying. And even tiny organizations are easily spending $15,000 a year on this problem. Larger ones, $3 to $4 million a year. This is what prompted me to build Campground, the product I wish I had. It's a CRM and hub for program leaders to launch programs quickly in one place, manage all that data, save a ton of money and time, and report on and focus on the impact. So we've been in the market for a little more than a year. We have 25 customers, all have paid from day one, $70,000 in recurring revenue, 3,500 users, and about 100K in our pipeline for the next 5 months. Our top logos include the State of California's College Core program, University of Virginia, and yours truly, Northwestern Garage, which is piloting Campground too. So what does the product actually do? Let me share how the State of California uses it. So for their College Core Fellowship, they needed a hub for participants so folks can log in, see a directory, resources, upcoming events. That's the portal. And they needed that to connect with the backend data. Every participant record is tracked. It's a CRM. And then they can also manage all those workflows like task tracking, emails, automations. We're adding events as well. Importantly, having this all in one place allows them to report on metrics they just never had before when they were in spreadsheets, which is like 75% of their fellows are active. They report that to their funders. And just this week, we had a renewal conversation, and they told me we're betting our house on Campground. So our business model is simple. It's a SaaS subscription ranging from $1,000 a year all the way up to $15,000 a year. Enterprise deals can easily become $50,000 over time. As you see, like State of California could expand to more departments. A unique channel I'd like to highlight is our program manager community. We do monthly learning, meetups, and it's a great way to build our brand and trust while dogfooding our own product. Our team is lean, global, and diverse. My CTO, Chris, has had multiple exits under his belt. My first customer hire is actually a former Campground customer. She loved the product. And $100,000 would be a game changer. It would allow us to make a few critical hires. And we've just raised a small pre-seed round, have done a lot with a little. And we have some big customers, including Sprouts and the State of Ohio's entrepreneurship programs that we'd love to bring in. And of course, if you know any organizations that could benefit from Campground, we should talk. Thank you.
That's great. I think the Northwestern Alumni Association could probably
Oh yeah, we should talk.
reunions and homecoming. You know.
Absolutely.
That's great. What would you say is the company that's kind of the closest comparable to what you're doing, and what are they achieving, and kind of revenue numbers that?
Yeah,
what's
it's a
kind of
good question.
So, what would dream the big dream for you?
Yeah, I would say it's actually like what HubSpot did to compete with Salesforce for marketers. That's what I'd like to build, like in that category. It's a new CRM for a new type of user. I would say the competitors actually end up being vertical solutions for a specific thing. Like I need to use Eventbrite for an event. I need to use MailChimp for emails. But the thing is, because those don't talk, we have a huge advantage of we centralize the workflows and the data. I'm building this because I couldn't find something that did this. So, yeah.
Well, how much revenue is HubSpot doing now? Do you know?
Oh my gosh, I actually don't even know the number, but they are huge. Billions.
Are they public, or are they publicly traded?
They're a public company. Yes,
Okay,
exited, and Salesforce, of course. yeah.
Right. Do you know how old HubSpot is?
About 10 years old, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of my partners could have been the first head of sales at HubSpot. That was a mistake.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry. I'm curious how you think about go-to-market, given where the price points are landing right now. I think it's a huge problem, but I think some of the verticals that are obvious ones here have real price pressure, and it looks like you're about a $3,000 a year ACV right now. If I saw 70K
Yep. Exactly.
And obviously, at that price point, you got to be pretty high velocity and pretty low touch.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know curious how you think about, community-enabled growth, product-led growth, or is the path to try to expand ACVs in the enterprise so that you can, invest in a more traditional, account-based
Absolutely.
go-to-market?
Yeah. So in some ways, I think the market is split into two. So there are small players that really like getting started quickly, and we piloted there, right? Because they're so quick to adopt. But I think the larger deals are really where we're going, because once the state tells us they're dependent on campground, that's where we really want to deepen the relationship, expand, and then the switching cost is super high. So I would say the small deals, it's like it should still be so easy for a non-technical person to use that we should be able to capture that with product-led growth. But I mean, our eye is on the $50,000, $100,000 deals for sure. In terms of community-led growth, this market is so word-of-mouth driven. Like if their friend in the workforce board tells them they used it, they're gonna buy. And so I think that's why community trust, like this is built by a program manager, but everyone's very tired of techies kind of selling to them. And so I think that's actually an advantage. And then another go-to-market channel is actually foundations. So the Sprouts Foundation has 25 grantee partners, and they haven't even closed yet, but they're introducing us to each one. And so I think that's sort of the network effects are really interesting for us too.
That's great. Second question, I think CRM is probably one of the software categories that has maybe the most potential for artificial intelligence, just because you store all the key data, and so many workflows that hang off of it are now automatable with the advent of large language models. And I think there's a strong case that verticalized products like this are going to be able to do really magical things there. Mm-hmm. I'd love to just talk about
where we see it coming.
What's your AI strategy?
Yeah.
There you go.
So to be honest, so many of these folks are non-technical. They're not even there yet. It's like spreadsheets to this first. But where we see AI coming in is reporting. So the way that they want to query their data is like very language based. It's like, how many Spanish speaking participants do I have in Florida? And so I think we're thinking of that as our first one. And then other things, like a lot of our partners have asked us about how there's a place to upload resources into Campground, like for your program. So it's like the search capabilities, even the ability to build a bot that answers their participant questions. They're asking us about that, and we're kind of a repository for their documents. So yeah, that could be cool too.
No, that's awesome. I think the natural language query of data is really cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well done. Thank you. Just one question about switching costs for existing enterprises as you begin to approach them. The beauty of all of the products and services that they're using today in a fragmented form that's not unified like Campground is that there are data network effects, and there are small little moats within each one of those products. It's nice to have a unified solution, but it's hard to uproot
Totally.
all the existing data. So how do you handle the ETLing and the past, and how do you convince them in a sale on the switching costs? And I'm also related to that, who is the buyer and decision maker?
Great question. So I would say they're related, right? So the program manager is often has a budget by themselves, like a program budget. And so they can make certain decisions about what they use. And what's interesting is we play quite nicely with existing tools because Salesforce does not even do half of these things, right? So I think sometimes when it's like, oh, we need to migrate, I'm like, well, or what are you doing to launch your next program? We can start from the beginning. You can run a full program and realize like that data did not exist anywhere. And so I actually think we've avoided like massive migration headaches because we're like, we think it just fits into your stack. And eventually more and more things are being moved into Campground as they see that it can be done. California is a good example. Like they didn't do task tracking for the first month or two. And they're like, wait, we're doing this in this other tool. Oh wait, let's move it in organically. So yeah, I think we can't force anyone to migrate, but I think we've been saying like it plays nicely and you can't do this anywhere else.
Just a quick follow up. So you're running it for new programs. Do you have a thought about how you bring it all together for an enterprise so that they can get the benefit of their historical data? And
Absolutely.
it might be related to your future AI endeavors because you'd want all that
Yeah.
training data about how they're doing stuff. But maybe just address a little bit about the switching costs.
Yeah, so UVA is a good example. They have 20 years of data that's been run in a very old software. And so actually we're doing that service as well and hiring some folks to help us clean the spreadsheets, build the fields in Campground, do the imports. And we think like if we can make that really easy for them, they're gonna be less scared. But yeah, I think the proof is like one program runs well and then they're like, oh, great. And then we kind of deal with the migration ourselves and kind of take it off their
Like
plate.
professional services where you provide support for that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
actually we're just doing a plan where it's like so much money per month that it includes like 5 hours of support. And that can include import services. So that's how we're kind of dealing with those larger deals.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Halfway through. Hi, everyone. My name is Summer Delaney, and I'm the founder and CEO of CollabWork, the first community-powered hiring platform connecting companies to the hidden job market at scale. I am a very proud Medill School alum, and one of the things that I've spent most of my career in is as an award-winning journalist. As the slides load, I started my career as Katie Couric's producer at Yahoo News. I actually got that job through a Northwestern Medill student journalism email listserv. My next job, an on-air reporter at Channel 11 in New York City, I found out about that opportunity through a Facebook group for women in production. Later on, as I was a product manager at Amazon Studio, I got that opportunity while I was at Columbia Business School through a Slack channel. Really, my network was my net worth in opening doors and getting me into amazing opportunities. Yet, unfortunately, today, companies are actually not looking at those watering holes for talent. In fact, they're searching in all the wrong places. 60% of recruiters say they can't find quality talent on LinkedIn, and only 2% of applicants that apply cold through job boards get interviewed. I'm sure for all of us in this room, we've gotten jobs because we've been referred or hired people through referrals, but that's a really hard process to scale and ultimately leads to less diversity in the workforce. Companies are hungry to advertise jobs. Nearly $3 billion was spent last year alone doing this, and they're looking for a way to reach this hidden job market. So imagine that for the first time they actually could. They could actually find those niche Slack communities, Discord servers, Facebook groups, really those pockets of the internet where the best talent are networking, upskilling, and most importantly, discovering opportunities from sources that they trust. And that's exactly what we built at CollabWork. We're the infrastructure layer that meets candidates where they are in these professional communities. How our software works is we integrate with over 40 applicant tracking systems, which host a company's roles. Then we import the jobs into our database, and our AI actually tracks based on location or job type or industry or function, what are the best targeted talent pools to promote those opportunities. Then our bots and automations actually amplify the jobs to our distribution network, reaching super high quality candidates, but also about half of our partners have a diversity and an affinity focus. So what does this actually look like in the wild? Let's take ZoomInfo, a paid customer of ours who came to us saying they want more women in their sales organization. So we took their sales jobs, we analyzed it, and as you can see across, women in sales LinkedIn groups, newsletters like the Morning Brew, Slack communities for sales professionals, this job appeared organically in those spaces. ZoomInfo and others have seen great results. We have an average click-to-apply rate of 20%. The industry average is under 5%. And additionally, 80% of our job postings actually result in interviews. This initial traction has really proven that we have, really the future of recruitment marketing is through these communities. We've advertised over 5,000 jobs across 1,000 companies and distribution partners. And on the flip side, I've negotiated deals with over 100 communities and newsletters. Most recently, we're the exclusive job provider for the Morning Brew and Smart Brief. We've won HR Tech's Pitch Fest for the best use of AI out of 100 debuting startups, and we're recently named a Work Tech top company to watch. In terms of our competition, hiring is competitive. Human capital has never been more important for companies, but with new entrants and incumbents, we're really the only solution that's tapping into these organic community talent pools, and we're doing it at scale through our bots and automations. We also integrate with existing tech stacks, so there's no shelf life risk, and we've really cracked distribution. In terms of our business model, it's scalable and flexible. We primarily do programmatic job-based advertising where companies pay up to $3 a click based on our lead generation. But what's different is we actually structure our deals either quarterly or semi-annually or annual contracts, so it kind of acts like SaaS recurring revenue. Additionally, if anyone here wants to give us a try, we have one-off job postings. And I'd love to, in the Q&A, discuss our funnel and some of our go-to-market strategies. In terms of our team, at this stage, team is super crucial. Everyone on this screen I've sourced through a community, so really practicing what we're preaching. We've had leaders in engineering, operations, hiring, go-to-market. I specifically want to call out Jeremy Gilbert. He was my advisor at Northwestern as an undergrad. He launched the Washington Post Talent Network, came back to NU, and has been on board since day one. As I said at the beginning of the call, or this demonstration, your network is your net worth. Northwestern has been a huge part of my entrepreneurship journey. Would love for VentureCat to be part of that story as we continue to grow. The $100,000 would go to a fine-tuning AI model, as well as our community distribution. We just raised a pre-seed from Sequoia Capital, 43, and Hearst Lab, and would love to have you all join us. Thank you.
Great presentation. Who from Sequoia's, are they on your board?
So we raised from their scout fund. His name is Bern Gerard.
Gotcha. And can you walk us through the funnel that you mentioned?
Yes. So one thing that's really interesting about this space is I often define kind of hiring tech as from hello to hire. There's a lot of different players throughout the hiring process. And really what makes us different is we're really a marketing solution in terms of advertising jobs to this hidden job market. So first, we are really, especially when we're doing programmatic job-based advertising, that cost per click model, that's really a Fortune 1000 company game. And so many of them have recruitment marketing agencies that actually manage their ad spend each year. So we've really developed really strong agency pipelines that are introducing us to clients weekly. Just this week, I had a call with Ace Hardware and Discover. So we're really getting some of those warm introductions to really great companies that at an early stage startup is really, really hard for us to access. Additionally, we also have distribution deals with some of the largest programmatic players. So ZipRecruiter, RecruitX, LinkedIn, they're giving us feeds of all their jobs, and we can essentially use our AI to pull them in and analyze where to place them. So we have revenue from direct clients as well as kind of these partnerships. And then also, part of my media background is those kind of community connections. So the Morning Brew, Smart Brief, we've really been able to onboard newsletters as a whole, which has allowed us to reach high clicks and get money.
And so do you think of yourself as a form of an ad network? And and how solid are your ad placements? Like, do you have really solid technology that knows that when you are distributing the jobs into those distribution channels, that it's definitely being presented? And
Yes. So one of the things that we've partnered with is AppCast, which is some of the largest programmatic job-based technology. So they are kind of the industry standard of terms of tracking clicks, if it's a valid apply, if it's based in the US. And so really how it works, especially when we go kind of these programmatic relationships, is we'll really see here's an example of a Slack community, kind of just doing a hyperlink, same with a Discord or even with a newsletter just natively in. They feel very organic, but we're actually tracking them as ad units.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more how you think about, but great job, by the way, how you think about the supply side. And I imagine some of these communities, it's open season. They're happy to have as many jobs placed there as possible, but in many cases, there's going to be either limited inventory. Morning Brew newsletter doesn't want their entire newsletter to be jobs, or there's maybe some degree of quality monitoring that needs to take place for the community to maintain its what makes it special in the first place. How do you think about that? And related, just how do you think about the extent to which you'll be supply constrained over time? Like, is there enough community out there for you to, just there's never going to be a ceiling, or do you need to balance demand and supply here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think one of the things that really has helped us with our go-to-market with communities is, even though this is an ad unit, they don't consider it ads. Especially with the mass layoffs we're experiencing, people want jobs. And so they really view jobs as a valuable tool that people will open the newsletter, will re-engage with. So they're willing to include them, and we haven't had any communities churn since starting this partnership. In terms of the opportunity, there are 750,000 professional Slack communities, 19 million weekly active Discord servers, 90% of Americans subscribe to at least one newsletter, with 74% subscribing to 10 plus. So we really see, huge opportunities. To your point, we're really leveraging newsletters specifically because it's kind of an audience play. We want to get as many eyeballs that are qualified to actually either click or apply on the job, as that's how we make money. So we're talking with, Beehive, ConvertKit, some of those other ESP networks to really kind of further help place the jobs and resell it to those communities.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And as you build, more and more supply side, I'd just love to hear a little bit about the matching, because I imagine I come in and I'm a new customer and I want the Morning Brew newsletter, but everybody wants the Morning Brew newsletter, and you may have to work your way up to that. And there might actually be more value in long tail communities I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
But how do you think about matching customers to the right community and expectation management?
Yes. So great question. So right now, kind of for how we're doing the matching that's making this a product and not a service is, every time a job comes in, we're using the AI to actually identify at a high level the industry, the function, the job type and seniority, where it's based. Some of this funding will go to a fine-tuning model that will actually use engagement data on how jobs have been performing, let's say in the healthcare brew of the Morning Brew, to actually, that's proprietary data we own that we can match both the tagging as well as the data we've collected to make matches smarter. I think it's a good problem to have when we have too much demand for the Morning Brew that we can't, to fit the jobs anymore. Kind of how our partnerships work is, as mentioned, we have direct partnerships as well as kind of these programmatic deals that, we get a certain amount of budget per month from LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter or Recruitix, et cetera. So our direct customers, we do have we try to prioritize that in the algorithm. And also, especially for newsletters, we have a dashboard where they can see kind of the actual price of the ad unit, and that also kind of prioritizes. So they're seeing, company A is going to pay $4 per click, company B $2. They're going to be more likely to click that ad. So that's something we sell to our customers that, hey, if you want the Morning Brew and this really great channel, you got to pay a little more than the others.
Really nice job. When you acquire a community and you use that to get to the, let's call them consumers on the community or members of the community, and they apply for a job, are you able to co-opt that user onto your platform so you can retain them and send them other jobs down the road, acknowledging that job search process might be episodic, but if they're not happy, they can come back to you directly, so then your CAC ends up declining and you end up getting a multiplier effect?
Great question. We have thousands of those users on our platform that, when they sign up and apply for a job, they're entered into our app, they sign our terms of services, and we are retargeting them with, emails and other ad campaigns. We always say, and something I learned from Katie Couric was, the reason people trust Katie Couric is she was in their living room every morning. You were with her when 9/11 happened. You saw the colonoscopy live on the air. You know her cooking with Martha Stewart. There's that trust that exists. Same with the morning brew. If you're reading the healthcare brew every morning, even if you're actively employed and not looking for an opportunity, you're going to click on that job. You're going to be interested because it feels like that referral, that writer that you really trust. And so, we have our own talent network and we're building our own brand, but we always find new talent signs up for us because the morning brew is basically selling us to them. So it's been a really great way to get to customers and also, new communities. They say, hey, I see the Morning Brews advertising jobs from CollabWork. I would like to do that for my community as well.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thank you. And then just in your go-to-market strategy, are you national, or did you focus on specific geographies where you have density on the supply and demand side?
That's been something that we're always trying to balance, because one of the downsides at times of having these third-party networks is the Morning Brew is not going to give us all of their user data, right? So we can't see how many are in New York. We can kind of see based on clicks in our own network where people live. What we tell our customers who ask us about, segmentations, we have a lot of local community partners. We're in conversations with Axios Local so that their newsletters would have our jobs. And then we could target, people in Milwaukee or Topeka, because that is important for companies. But then we also kind of do the national play, and at times even international. Some of these Slack groups, we have people all over the world. We have people saying, can you hire in Germany? At the same time, we're getting messages when people see the bots, I'm in Germany, I'm looking for a job. So while we say we're more national, we do have a global footprint as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So in your world, samples are the free stuff you get at a Costco. But in the world of the 600,000 manufacturers across the United States, samples are where they spend an average of $100,000 a year each. That is $60 billion being managed on extremely archaic systems. I'm PG, CEO and co-founder of OrderSmart, and we are here to bring manufacturing data kind of out of the 90s. Now, every sale in manufacturing, whether it's for a case, a pallet, a truck, or a container load, starts with a product sample. However, 90% of the products being sampled do not live on any systems, and this causes extremely high failure rates across the entire sampling workflow. But worse, less than 10% of these actually convert to purchase orders. At OrderSmart, we are digitizing one of the most traditional and widely used manufacturing operations in the world, product sampling. Our team has spoken with hundreds of manufacturers of varying sizes over the past year, many of them actively waiting for our solution, and heard one thing consistently: sampling is a bottleneck to their growth. And we've worked with some of them as design partners to put out a solution they love. What started with one manufacturer supporting 2 products on our platform is today 3 companies managing 184 products on our platform, growing on a week-over-week basis. One of our customers, a flavors and concentrates manufacturer, came to us saying, we cannot support any new clients or new business within existing clients without bringing in more resources internally. Can you help? Since using OrderSmart, this customer has onboarded 12 new clients and unlocked $300,000 in revenue. Our pricing model is actually pretty simple. We charge based on the number of products in someone's catalog as well as their usage. So as the value we provide to this customer increases, so does the price that we charge them. Now, I've known my co-founder since I started my first business with his sister about 10 years ago, and managing product catalog data and manufacturing operations is not new to us. He has done this on his father's factory floors, and I have rolled out technology for over 500 suppliers at Wayfair to manage their product catalog data. We know the secret sauce to driving adoption within an industry like this. Unlike other platforms, the OrderSmart software tackles the root of the problem, establishing product data right where it starts to be formed, sampling. And by doing this, we're actually able to finally digitize the operations around that product catalog data, not just the data itself. But over time, this allows us to be the source of truth or owner of that data throughout its life cycle. We start by simply managing and cleaning up product catalog data that oftentimes sits in Excel sheets, email threads, lab notebooks in R&D places, and really stacking it up so you have a SKU formed before you need to put it in your ERP. You're looking at basically what might take 4 hours per product to add to an ERP down to a couple minutes and no bureaucracy. We move on to actually digitize the entire sampling operation, sometime lasting years for some of these manufacturers. And by doing that, you can start to pinpoint these failures and data errors that happen. For example, you have technical sales selling a product as a sample to a customer from the customers in Mexico. Technical sales is sitting in the United States. Goes to R&D, sample gets created, moves to logistics. Now at the warehouse, they're like, we actually cannot ship this product to Mexico. This is not a customer we can serve. Happens way more often than we realize, and that's time and money wasted beyond it. And at the end of the day, we also automate logistics and operations, because while pallets and container loads are a fairly well-oiled machine, ask someone to pull a small bag of something out of their line, disaster. By doing this, we bridge the gap between a manufacturer's CRM and ERP platform, and end of the day, help them increase revenue, decrease costs, and reduce these failure points. The game changer here, though, is the network effect our platform has. As a manufacturer sends samples out to a customer or receives samples from a vendor, each of these vendors and customers can become order-smart customers. And this strategy enables us to unlock fast-paced growth in a market worth over $20 billion just in the United States. Now, at OrderSmart, we are digitizing product sampling operations across industries. We're starting with the food supply chain because it's one of the largest and most complex spaces in the market. But whether it's a sample of a flavor that's going to go into your protein bar or the fabric that is one of the t-shirts you're wearing, every industry needs this. Our ask today is for the $100,000 to reach $150,000 in ARR. We've reached where we are by raising just $250K, backed by Techstars and a few other VCs, but this will really accelerate the product and process improvements we need to reach this new milestone and unlock some of our larger players in the pipeline. Thank you, and come find us at the reception to learn more.
Thank you. That's very interesting. What companies, so if it sounds like this is for samples only, what companies are doing kind of the normal operations? What software are people using, and how large are those companies, and how successful are they in that, normal business?
Yeah, so this is a sort of dirty slide, but the manufacturing tech stack and the kind of operations they have to do is fairly varied, and there's very different operations sitting across the board. For the largest of enterprise players, you're going to see CRMs in the classic Salesforce standard and ERPs sitting in SAP usually. We've had customers say they've paid for Salesforce for over 5 years and haven't been able to make it do what they need for sampling, honestly, because it's just too noisy and not built for this use case. The reason we sell our value prop as, hey, we help you manage sampling operations versus we help you digitize product data right from its source, is that's where they feel the bottleneck. That's where they say every sample accounts to 7-8 figures of potential revenue for us. And when that sample fails, we see that revenue sliding. To answer your question about who else is, I guess, a part of it was what are they using? They will still continue to use SAP for inventory management, for production management, accounting. They will still continue to use Salesforce to manage their sales pipelines. But what happens to R&D, quality, compliance, and everyone sitting in the middle who are essentially running that sampling operation as a layer in between? That's where we step in. But as we start to see that product data live in us, a lot of them are asking about, can you just send this product data to my ERP so I don't have to deal with consistent onboarding? And the beauty of product data is it's not a one-sided thread. you're not just sending it to the ERP, you're also receiving it back from there and sending it back. So there's consistent back and forth happening across all of the different stack that sits over here.
And so how difficult would it be for a Salesforce or an SAP to replicate, if they start to see that you're successful, to replicate what you're doing?
Again, coming back to the piece of product data, no technology is so crazy that no one can remake it. It's all about where are they prioritizing their efforts and their budgets. Salesforce and SAP have a lot of revenue coming from the ability to do large consulting projects and custom build for companies like this. However, that doesn't manage compliance, maintenance, things that are like consistently changing, shipping integrations across international shipments. That's just not where their priority lies. And simplifying their system, they have consistently across verticals just acquired other folks. Not difficult for SAP to manage vendor management, but they're going out and buying a system that's cleaner designed and better made for the modern manufacturer versus building it themselves.
Yeah, I really like this as a wedge because it's so tightly tied to revenue generation. I'm curious, in the food supply chain, what size companies you're thinking about and what your sense of willingness to pay and ACVs will look like for a product like this.
Yeah, actually, here you go. So we're starting, our product actually, like the beta went live in October of last year, and we started with extremely like lower mid-market food supply chain folks to bring on board quickly for two reasons. Very like quick sales cycles, they're willing to try quickly, you can get leadership quickly. Then when you start to expand into, like, say, the Cargills of the world, that's looking more at a 9-month-ish sales cycle, but they're also now paying over $100,000 for something like this. Cargill, for example, has like 5 departments trying to figure out a solution against this. They're willing to start piloting against specific business units and then expanding ACVs. What we're doing now is going after the mid-market, so it allows us to build the case studies and the social proof that, hey, we can do this. We've done it for, honestly, your vendors. That's the beauty of this industry. Like, you can find a small to medium food manufacturer, and they're likely working with some of the largest ones, and now you're in connection with them by virtue of how did you do this for them? But that's how we would expand our ACV within existing customers, just by going after those business unit type work.
Yeah. And so in the mid-market, direct sales and ACVs are tens of thousands of dollars, you think, out of the gate?
Yeah, ACVs range all the way between 5 to 25K in that mid-market, and the amount of work you have to do to get that sale varies for the one sitting in the 5K versus the 25K. 25K, you're looking more at like at least one factory visit, just making sure they see your face. 5K, maybe 3 to 4 calls, a demo, and they're ready to start like piloting something.
Yeah, and if you maybe want to go back a slide, I saw the vision is make the ERP obsolete. I am curious in the mid market over time, do you want to try to move deeper into core workflows? And ripping out an ERP is super hard, but nobody likes their ERP. So there's certainly appetite. I really like this as a wedge, and I guess I'd be curious how far you think you can extend from it.
I think for the first 5 years, we want to focus on actually going across industries. So we've heard a lot of this use case, and our pipeline already has like garment, chemicals, pharma coming into this, and that allows us to go across industries as like, hey, we're your like go-to solution for thinking about sample management and globally. Once we do that, our move into an ERP is actually, you don't even need to worry about the onboarding of your entire catalog and the data within it. I can see us maybe in the 7 to 10 year range starting to flow into those larger ERP workflows, but that is never going to be our like selling point or the core value prop.
Yep, makes sense. I'll hand it over, but great job.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll echo the wedge comment. That's really what I liked about this as well. Can you just walk through the customer ROI case? So just kind of pick an average customer. Yeah. When you're selling to them, how fast are they seeing the value, and in what buckets? Because you described it, but I'm curious what the scale of it is. If it's a reliability and accuracy of data issue, what is the downstream problem and scale of not getting that right? So that what problems does it create? If you can pay for your platform up front, you're saving them this much money here, or headcount here, or I don't know, revenue performance here. I guess I'm trying to add up those buckets and see if there's an order of magnitude impact benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question, and kind of differs between the buckets of sizing of customers we're going after, right? So if you take an enterprise company like Cargill, or I don't know, take like Pfizer even on the pharma side, for them, the magnitude actually starts right up front because they're sending hundreds of samples out per week, and they're consistently seeing that scale of who have we received feedback from, where has it fallen through the cracks, how many things are logistics complaining about, and how many Excel sheets have we been able to get rid of. I was at a trade show on Monday, and we had someone literally come up and say, are you telling me Excel is outdated? Because we're a $2 billion company and we're still running this operation out there. So when you think about the larger ones, they start to see that revenue come in very quickly because right up front in onboarding, we do get all of their existing products on catalog. So it's not just for net new. We take everything that they have on stack and move it into our product. And then we integrate with all of their shipping products. So they're seeing every day one, you're seeing your hundreds of samples go out through OrderSmart. On the mid-market side, they are dealing with fewer customers. So the case study I provided of the flavors manufacturer we're dealing with, they would need to hire at least 5 more people to be able to even sell to 2 more customers. They started using our platform. I think within 5 months of it, they had 12 new customers. And as soon as these people identify that customer, even before the sample converts to the PO, because that can take a couple months, they know what that customer is worth because they've already signed what that MOQ is going to be for them to manufacture. So on the mid-market side, it takes them a little bit longer, which is why they fall into our lower bucket. And we have the usage lever of our platform pricing. But on the larger enterprise side, they start to see it very quickly.
Got it. Thank you so much. Have you financed the company to date? I see who you're backed by, but can you just talk a little bit about that?
So we've raised $250K so far. Some of that through pitch competitions, but 220 of that through Safe Notes. And we're a team of 2 full-time and managed quite literally just fairly in a lean manner and built everything in-house.
So when you say you built it in-house, did the 2 of you build it, or do you have contract
my
development?
co-founder right here has built everything that we've put out there.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Jake, CEO and co-founder at Zest, and at Zest we're building Duolingo for cooking. And we're doing it for young people like Jace. Jace is a real customer of ours. He's a 25-year-old grad student who is trying to balance work, a relationship, and nursing school. But Jace had no idea how to cook. He was ordering Chipotle on DoorDash, spending $30 per order for half the week, and microwaving Trader Joe's orange chicken for the other half. So literally the way that Jace was eating dinner was by reaching into his freezer or blowing his daily budget on a single meal. In his battle for personal health, personal finances, he was losing both. And knowing something had to change, Jace has used Zest to make that change. So here's how it worked for him. When Jace first came into Zest, he was placed in Unit 2, which is all about learning how to season your food, the foundational concepts behind making your food taste better. In it, he chooses a recipe based on his skill, knowledge, and preferences. So for example, here, as a big fan of soups, Jace has decided to cook our Thai curry soup. Before it comes time to step into the kitchen, Jace engages with digestible, tweet-length slides and subsequent tap quizzes in order to learn about a cook's most invaluable tool, which is salt. So then when it does come time to step into the kitchen and cook his curry, Jace is ready. And when he does, he engages with green, in-recipe chef tips in order to reinforce the knowledge that he just learned about and internalize it for later use. So for example, here, Jace is learning that salting as you go is critical to building flavors and layers, and that tasting just before serving is key to making those flavors sing. And because Jace loved the Thai curry soup so much, he decides to cook it again. But this time, the same recipe that taught him the importance of salt has evolved and is now teaching him about the power of acidity. Later, Jace bookends the seasoning part of his journey, learning how to balance salty, sour, and sweet with the very same recipe. So now flash forward to today. Jace is on Unit 6. He's learning recipes that teach him about the complexities of flavor, allow him to experiment with his own personal cooking style. In it, he might learn how to extract and infuse flavor. He's now graduated up to our beef or Brahmin, in addition to his other staples, in order to cook these new recipes. So using Zest, Jace's life around food, it's completely changed. He's now cooking 4 times a week, saves over $500 a month. This is how Jace has grown with us. And the best part is there are a ton more people in need of help, just like Jace. To date, we've grown an organic social following of over 250,000 people across TikTok and Instagram. We drive those people through our funnel into our product, which has an NPS of over 90, and we monetize these people with a subscription. Over the last 9 months, we've grown to over 30,000 MRR, over 25,000 monthly active users, and customers have been loving it, with one raving, "My wife and I love this app. You guys are providing an essential skill that no one talks about." The first meal we made, we thought, how? Saying that they tell all their friends. Put more simply, Zest is changing people's lives. Now, the reason we built the app is really twofold. The first is my grandparents had cookbooks, my parents the Food Network, but for Gen Z and trailing millennials, the generation that grew up with phones, guidance in the kitchen is brandless. Nothing occupies significant mind share right now. Now, at the same time, this generation is heavily invested in upskilling. You have language learning through Duolingo, you have mindfulness through Headspace, but nothing quite exists yet in food. And so what we're doing is taking what's worked successfully in these other verticals, applying it to the outmoded field of cooking. Our first 4,000 paid subscribers came primarily from our organic reach. Our path to 10,000 subscribers involves continuing to scale that reach. Like I mentioned, we have over 250,000 followers in a repeatable, proven formula that's worked both cross-platform and with different creators that we've plugged and played in. From there, our path to 100,000 subscribers involves augmenting the depths and directions that people can progress through Zest itself. Zest has partnered with premier pre-seed funds to realize our vision, and we're just last month honored as one of the 0.3% of apps to have ever been selected as Apple's App of the Day. And we're just getting started from here. Now, of course, all this is made possible through the help of my fantastic team, who I'd be more than happy to answer any questions on during the Q&A. Thanks so much. Again, I'm Jake. This is Zest, and at Zest, we're building Duolingo for cooking.
Really well done. We're hearing more and more as investors, Duolingo for this or Duolingo for that. If you
we started that.
Yeah, you started it. Back in the day, 5 to 8 years ago, it was Uber for this and Uber for that, and you could apply the same thing to Tinder. I'm curious, as you're building out the product roadmap, how are you prioritizing what's important about what to introduce to the users? So we're getting kind of tactical. You talked about how you salt the food, or maybe with the acidity. Where are you getting your domain knowledge, and how do you prioritize how to build that in to improve the learning and then improve the overall efficacy as they're beginning to learn to cook and try new dishes?
This is an excellent question. So in 2 parts, where we get our domain knowledge from, and then how we think about building for the users. The domain knowledge comes from our first hire, Julie O'Touche. She is our head of culinary and education. She has a degree in education from Harvard, but also was a chef at Alumni, which is a 3-star Michelin restaurant in Chicago, was voted best restaurant in the world. So she's been leading how we think about food. That is then distilled through my co-founder, Graham, Wildcat alum, and also is an accomplished comedian and performer who has been responsible for building the brand that's attracted that top of funnel interest. As it relates to how we decide to build in what order, right? The world of food is pretty big. It's just willingness to pay. I mean, you line up 9 or 10 people in a room, 9 of them are gonna say, I wanna learn how to cook. And so it's like, who's actually willing to pay to learn how to cook? And what we found is 4 circumstances. So it's be a better significant other. Like, I eat 4-day-old chicken and rice, that's totally cool for me, but give it to the person I care about, and it's like FBI's top 10 most, like, what are you doing for yourself? The other is gaining agency. We are a disaffected generation. We work jobs, many work jobs that they don't find a deep connection to. You come home, you watch reality TV on Netflix, you scroll through TikTok, and that's where people find us as almost a call to action to take back control and agency over their lives. The other, budgeting. So that really DoorDash example at the top there, where I'm spending this much money, that first budgeting event that you go through, or like feeling like your body's just changed over time and wanting to take control over that, have been the last really big moments for us.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thanks for sharing that background and how you've prioritized what you're putting out there to consumers. Can we talk a little bit about what you're seeing with the marketing unit economics? So It sounds like you've built a lot of organic acquisition, or maybe you've seeded the organic acquisition and it's grown through there, and you have some virality. I'm curious, maybe I'll break this down into a few questions.
Sure.
Do you measure your viral coefficient, and what is it today? What's your paid to organic blended CAC? If you can break that down, that would be helpful. And then of the $99 subscriptions or the $9.99 a month, what are people signing up for? And if you were to take that weighted average mix of what they're signing up for, sorry, 3-part question.
Yeah.
And you applied your gross margin on that. Do you have any indication of how long they might be staying on to begin to estimate a gross profit based LTV? And I'd love to hear kind of your LTV to CAC and CAC payback based on that.
Yeah. If okay, can we go one at a time there?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the first one that you started me off
Viral
with.
coefficient.
Viral coefficient. The way that we actually look at it is at a baseline. We found that building a business based on going viral is difficult. We've consistently gone viral throughout our entire existence, but what we wanted is the bare minimum. If we just post what the number ended up being, if we post 6 times a week, we'll get 1,200 people to activate, no matter what. And then the viral upside is massive. So you'll see weeks where you do much better than that, but at a baseline, it's there. We then take that content and we'll give it, we started with friends that were micro-influencers, we give them a brand playbook, it still will travel, just based on just a step process that they follow. We then also use it and put money behind it, and in performance, we activate it around $15 per customer right now. And so that's number one going into the CAC.
So that was going into the CAC, but do you measure your K factor on average? If you have one user or one customer,
Yeah,
paying
so
customer,
we-
how many do they end up referring? If you're able
this
to
is
track
a great
it.
question. Not yet. Starting to pay much more attention to it.
Okay,
because
so it's
we don't-
happening, but you're not tracking it quite yet.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So we'll hear it's people tell their friends, and then the social component to the app. We are well aware people actually compete and will send screenshots over text using Zest.
Yeah.
But we haven't built that in yet. First, it's teach people how to cook really well, build a social community to share around that success and failure, and then later on.
Okay,
maybe
so
more
the paid CAC is $15, but
That's right.
your blended CAC is lower. We just don't know exactly what it is quite yet.
That's right.
Because you still have to track that. I totally understand that. And if and then looking at the weight mix between the annual subscription and the monthly, and if you took your current data and applied that composition mix based on your gross margin profile, I'd love to hear what that is.
Yep.
What is the LTV you're generating, and I can sort of back out all the other numbers.
Right. So 70%, around 70% do annual right now,
Okay.
and around 30% do monthly.
Okay.
The
Gross margin.
The gross margin is around 82%. That's because we drive a lot through Apple. So Apple takes 15%.
Yep.
That's changing very quickly. So we're already starting to test on Stripe, see what the throughput and how it
Yep.
hurts trial start rate. We're seeing
Where you
promising
pick up
signs.
on the web, but then they're able to log in through the app.
Exactly
Okay.
right.
Got it. And so you'll improve your net effective margin off your net revenue versus gross there. But based on that blend, how long are they staying on right now?
So what we look at is 15-day payback period. That's the amount of time, and we immediately make back. So we're at on a good week, bad week, like 1.5. 15-day ROAS
Okay. Got it.
is what we look at, yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job. How much have you spent on product development so far, and how deep is the product, and what do you anticipate will be kind of the ongoing product development costs that you're going to have?
Well, we can build relatively leanly. That's for a couple of reasons. One is that there's no dearth of cooking content online. What it is being able to test it for efficacy. That's where Julie comes in. Make sure that the brand is correct. Graham has done or laid the groundwork for that. Amrit Saini, my other co-founder, has over a decade of engineering experience. He led a product team to exit in the past. And so we lean on him. He's built everything out with the people that you see on stage or on the screen here and nobody else.
And so how much have you raised total?
We closed a $1.5 million pre-seed.
And was that almost all on product development, or?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
that's right.
And do you see that that's going to be just, do you feel like, is it the technology kind of a platform that you just feed content into at this point, or is there a lot of product development that still needs to happen?
We've laid the groundwork for just that. We believe that what someone wants to learn how to cook is so much deeper than just, I want to make a certain type of food. We have a heuristic model right now. We're training it and making it more effective that looks at things like cleanup rate. Do I want to clean as I go? Do I want to clean at the end? Looks at shopping effort that I would put in based on the areas of the store and what those ingredients are. Looks at things like the prep time, the amount of focus that a recipe takes. We're currently dialing that in quite a bit more, and so that's like where a lot of the engineering effort is placed. I guess like put most simply, 100K from this is going directly to that product effort, and that product effort is focused on making someone cook a meal once. So 33% of our subscribers cook once, 74% cook a second time, 84% of that cohort cook a third. Of the people that have made it to 3 meals cooked, we have retained more than 95% all time. And so we look to get people to cook that first meal. That's really where the opportunity lies for us.
Really cool business. I have a lot of questions. No way I'm gonna get through them all. But maybe the first one is, how do you think about the distribution tricks that you need for the next horizon and the next horizon and the next horizon? Consumer social. You got to keep finding that next big kind of leap forward. And I'm curious what your theories are. I have a couple, but I'm curious. Like paid's going great. You can probably scale that for a while, but it's going to get more expensive. Mm-hmm. What else is going to juice you as you get to 1 million users, 10 million users, 100 million users?
So Dinesh hit on something extremely important, which is the social scalability of the app. And this is something our priority has been on right now, making the educational experience as effective, as sticky as possible, with the knowledge that these weird quirks are happening. And so we understand that we're going to be able to scale through that. Small creators in creator marketing, also partnership opportunities with people who are aspirational in the food world. I can flash backwards to here. With people who are aspirational in the food world, being able to get into the mind and go down a famous chef's, the way that a famous chef thinks about food in a way that fits into my life is something that really excites us.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, so much of the way this generation discovers cooking is through TikTok and social, and how you think about partnering with that ecosystem. I can imagine a world that parts of this business look like a masterclass. I'm just curious how you've thought about that, and is all the recipes are generated by Zest today?
Right now,
licensing?
That's because we're training that model that I mentioned. So we want to make sure that that's as dialed in and understood as possible. As we get better at that, though, these partnership opportunities exist. What we're doing right now is we see that these influencers create a tremendous amount of intent in our user base. And so people are scrolling, they're watching this unbelievable cooking content. They watch hundreds of hours of it, and they step into the kitchen and can barely apply anything. And so, sorry. Okay.
She's talking to me, not you.
Got it. So we've seen that this builds a tremendous amount of intent in the people that use Zest, and then you come across our content and it's like, hey, why are you eating a Chipotle burrito? And that's been a major moment to activate these users. Over time, proprietary content in the app as it fits into our form, so not a 5 to 7 hour Sunday excursion that completely drains you before you start your week and involved you going to 4 grocery stores, but rather in a way that actually and practically would be done by people. 45-second cut-up videos look great, but they take a lot longer than that in real life typically. So we know some things to cut out. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right, let's give one more round of applause to all of our amazing finalists. Great pitches, everyone. It's inspiring not only to see the diversity and intensity of the problems that you're solving, but also your passion for solving them. So we're cheering for all of you. So for those of us watching on the live stream, we're going to take a break for our judges to deliberate. We'll be back shortly to announce the finalists. But for those of you here in person, we invite you out to the reception area for drinks, food, and conversation as our judges deliberate. And thank you all for attending. We'll be back shortly. All right. We got all 5. Great. Thank you all again for attending and supporting our amazing alumni founders. We had a very lively and active deliberation with the judges' room, and I have to say, all of you were in contention and in conversation, so great work to all of you. With that said, yeah, round of applause. With that said, we're ready to announce the grand prize winner of Alumni VentureCat, winning $100,000 in non-dilutive prize money to build your venture. And the winner is Blip Energy. All right, congratulations to Sophia and the Blip team, and congratulations again to all of the founders. Thank you all so much.